Alrighty then.
Welcome to Indoor Fun.
Alrighty then. So I got a new kicking system that I want to introduce. So this one is a little different than the other ones. We're not using diamonds, but there is another approach to take, and I want to kind of go over that. This can be used in one bank kicks and two bank kicks. I'll start with the one bank kick, and I'll just kind of give you a demonstration of how it works, and then I'll do the two bank kicks and give a demonstration of how that works as well. We're talking about the midpoint parallel shift. Now Dr. Dave has a really good video on the two rail version of this, and then the one rail one. There's some other people that have I found it in one video, and I'd never used it before, so I'm actually going to be doing it here for the first time, and I'm going to demonstrate it. It's pretty cool. But anyway, let's start with the one bank midpoint parallel shift system. Stay tuned. Alrighty then. So let me just get set up here. So we've now I've got these little markers. I don't need these markers just this right now, but I'm going to be using these in a little bit. But we're going to start with a simple situation like this, right? We're say you've got the 8 ball here and the opponent's blocked you, right? And we know from before, right, equal angles, right? Just above center, just a basic roll, right? So if this is the halfway mark, right, if I hit that with just above center, nice roll, then I'll kick and hit that ball. So that's pretty straightforward, right? But what happens if it's here, right? So now I can't use that, right? But there is a system that you can use here. It's called the midpoint parallel shift one rail kick. Okay. What you do is you go opposite of the ball you're going to hit, right? And then you go and you move your cue to about halfway between this ball and the ball you want to hit, which is roughly there. Just double check that I'm still there. Yeah, it's roughly here. And then I take my cue, I lift it up, and then I parallel shift it. So I'm moving my cue parallel to the path, and then I'm going to hit my cue ball right there with the same kind of just a tip above with just a basic roll. And this can be used in any situation. So same idea here, right? I want to kick to there. Actually, I got to be careful because of the I'm going to get in trouble with the there. Same idea. I want to kick this guy, right? So I take I put my cue there, and this is about halfway between the two balls, between the cue ball and the black ball. About halfway is here. Then I lift my cue and I parallel shift, which basically I just keep my cue parallel all the way over, and then I aim for that spot just above center with the basic roll. Alrighty then, so you saw that I missed that, and it's really important when you're doing this one, and this will just take practice. Obviously, getting this line where your tip of your cue is going to be, and then finding that middle distance between the ball that you're kicking at, and then maintaining that parallel shift. That parallel shift is probably the hardest part. But what I've done is I've marked stuff with the chalk, just to show you that when it's done accurately, then you'll kick properly. But let's just go over it again. So basically, I can't do the middle because these aren't lined up. But you can use this technique called the midpoint parallel shift by going opposite the ball that you want to kick at and rotating your cue to the middle point between the two, then parallel shifting. And this is the hardest part, is keeping this cue parallel with the original center line. All right, you're coming right here. You can see I've already marked it with there. So center ball, maybe a tip above center ball, just a nice medium stroke, and you hit that ball every time. Now, you'll get better and better at this the more you practice. It's really, really handy system. Alrighty then, I'll show a third example. It's all about that, getting that shift. And so this is a really tough example. But it's you got a chance to win the game, right? If you can kick that 8 ball in, right? So the 8 ball is basically here. Its opposite would be over here, right? So you're roughly finding the midpoint. I mean, ideally perfectly. And then you're going to find your parallel shift. It's going to be somewhere around here. And just like that. So that is the one rail version of the midpoint parallel shift kicking system. Let me show you the 2 rail version. Stay tuned. Alrighty then, let's talk about the 2 rail midpoint parallel shift kicking system. So a little bit different, but similar. So let me just show you. Right, you've got a situation here where say you can't kick 1 rail to the 8. So I don't have any balls in the way, but let's just imagine that's the case. What you do is you point your Q-tip at this corner 5 pocket, at that pocket, and then you basically put your cue through the path halfway between the 2 balls, and then you parallel shift your cue, right, this way, and then there's your spot that you're going to hit on the rail. And then what you do is you usually just, because if you want to hit this with a little bit of running English, then add a couple of Q-tips up the rail and then hit it with running English, and you'll hit that ball. Now, if I didn't use, so say I didn't use the running English, I could just hit it medium, maybe 1 tip above, and right on the parallel, right? But sometimes that ends up a little bit wide, right? So the easiest thing to do is to basically, if you want to hit this with some running English. So if this was your parallel line, just 1 or 2 Q-tips up, like maybe an extra chalk up towards this way with the running English, and then it should be bang on. Now, I guess the other option is you could use just center ball, but maybe go the other way a tiny bit. No, I don't think that would work. I think you'd actually have to go more than 1 tip, more than 2 tips, more than a chalk if you want to hit center. right? So those are the kind of adjustments you need to understand when you're using this system. But generally, if you have just a basic angle like this coming in, right, where that angle, you know, it's not too shallow, too steep, whatever you want to call that. Same idea here. It's almost like it's nicely centered with this. Then you find your midpoint, you do your parallel shift right to here, you add maybe a chalk to the right, and just hit it with some nice running English, and then you'll hit that ball really consistently. When this gets difficult is when the angle going into this rail becomes steep. And I'll demonstrate that, right? When it gets steep like that, you basically do exactly the same thing. You adjust maybe a cue, couple of cues or a chalk up towards the pocket. But when it's steep like this, you don't use running English. You just hit it with the regular maybe a tip above center. So let's just see what this looks like. So same idea, center through the ball, right? Then you're going to find your midpoint parallel shift, right? Which is going to be, and that's the trickiest part of this, is doing this parallel shift and trying to get it accurately. You're kind of right around here, right? So then you basically aim upwards, maybe a chalk, but in this case, you don't hit English. You don't hit the running English. You hit it just maybe one tip above center, and you'll hit the ball. If I was to hit with running English, I will miss quite a bit. So as this angle gets steeper into the rail, you do everything exactly the same. It's just you hit it with center. And like anything else, these systems, they're all dependent on obviously the aim, right? Finding the center point, doing a proper parallel shift, but also speed. If you hit it too hard, right, you're going to shorten the angle. If you hit it too soft, you're going to widen it. If you hit too much English, you're going to widen it. So you have to understand. And then obviously your cloth, some cloths faster than others, some rails, you know, a new rail versus an older, deader rail, right? So these are things, but if you practice these on your table, you'll get very, very familiar with what type of a stroke you need to do for that particular table. And then once you have that, then you can basically use this system. So basically find the midpoint, aim to the midpoint, do a parallel shift, adjust, right? So when I say adjust by a chalk, right? So, right, if my line was through there, instead of aiming through there, I'm just going to aim just a chalk up, an extra chalk up towards. So on this side, it's this way. If I was coming this way. And then if the angle is really steep, hit it with no English, just hit it like a tip above center with a nice medium roll, right? And if you have just a standard kind of in and out angle that looks, you know, very, very similar, right? Then you're just going to aim with a little bit of running English. Now, obviously, if you have to hit this hard, right? Now you have to kind of make some adjustments for that as well. So let me do one last example. I don't know if I'm going to have to do a couple of takes here. I'm going to let it go live. I'm just going to go for it. We'll see if I can get it right. I'll talk you through my thoughts as I'm doing the shot, but I'll set it up as an example, right? So say, whatever, say you're playing a game, but you have to make contact after, right? So say my ball is like here, and let's say my cue ball was here, right? So I want to kick this, but I want to make sure that my cue ball hits a rail after contact, right? I don't want to leave a foul. So this probably not a good example having the 8-ball there, but whatever. We're doing a 2-rail kick, but we have to make contact afterwards. So let's just do this roughly. So that's roughly halfway, right? I take my parallel shift, right? And I try to keep it on the parallel, kind of like that. That's aiming right about there. So I know my angles are fairly similar. If I go about it chalk up with running English, if all goes well, I hit it. And I do, bang on. But I didn't hit a rail afterwards. So now, how do I make an adjustment for hitting it harder? Well, what do I know? I know if I hit that hard, right, this angle is going to increase. It's going to come this way, right? And I'll end up being long, like on this side, right? Because this angle is going to be wider and it's going to come here. So if I was to hit there and hit it hard, then I should end up long on this side. So if I hit this hard, then I miss on this side. Okay, so what do I do if I want to make sure that I can hit it hard enough? Then I need to counter that effect, right? So I need to hit it a bit more up here. So maybe I'm going to guess, I'm going to go like 3 inches up, and I'm going to hit it good firm shot. And if everything goes well, I should hit it. Oh, so close. So I need to go even more. Almost, not quite a diamond, 3/4 of a diamond, hit it firm, and then I hit a rail. So those are the kind of adjustments that you need to be able to make on the fly. You got to hit it harder, so you know you've got to counteract, because when you hit it harder, right, this angle goes this way, which means this angle is going to be wide here, right? So if you're going to do that, then what you want to do is hit it more up here, right? And in this situation, I actually hit it almost about 3/4, right? At first I went 3 inches above, that wasn't enough. So now I know in this situation, right, that I need to get almost, I went 3/4 of a diamond and I hit it, right? But these are the kind of things you need to practice on your table. And if you do that, you'll be able to, first of all, you get the feel of the table, and you'll be in a situation where you have to kick to get out, and you'll know how to make these adjustments because first of all, you know the midpoint parallel shift system now. You know that it's accurate, right? When you find the midpoint and then you get the parallel shift and then you make the adjustment, maybe a Q, 2 or 3 Q-tips at chalk above with running English. Or if that angle is steep, then you just hit it with just a standard center hit, maybe a tip above, right? And you know that's going to work. Now, if you have to hit it harder, right? Then you have to know when you hit it harder, what does that do to that first kick, right? And then you make adjustments accordingly. And that's how we get better at this game. We practice those situations and you use the systems to your advantage. Anyway, that's it for now. Hopefully this was helpful. See ya. Thanks for watching. See ya.